On Tuesday, ICE arrested Romulo Avelica-Gonzalez, an undocumented man with 4 US-born children, while he was on his way to drop his daughters off at school. Now, one of his daughters has reported that her father was very scared when he was being pulled over, so she started filming the event as ICE enforcers arrested the man and took him away. Take a look.
Mama, cierra la puerta.
So obviously that is an extremely heart-wrenching video to watch. Now, Avelica-Gonzalez, who has been in the US for more than 20 years, dropped off his 12-year-old daughter and was on his way to drop off his 13-year-old child when immigration officials detained him a block from his daughter's school in Los Angeles. Avelica said the immigration officers had been following him in a car since he left the house that morning. Now, it's being reported that Avelica-Gonzalez has 2 prior convictions, a DUI that is nearly a decade old, and a conviction from 20 years ago when he bought a car that had a registration sticker on it that did not belong to the car. Also, it appears as though he had an outstanding order of removal that dates back to 2014. Now, the National Day Labor Organizing Network mobilized to make calls to ICE officials to halt Avelica-Gonzalez's deportation. And according to them, Avelica-Gonzalez was granted a temporary stay on Tuesday night, but he remains in detention.
So he'd been arrested. Oh, I see it. There it is. So,
yes.
So the DUI, a decade old.
Right.
And
he bought a car with a poor registration sticker, and so they asked for his removal back in 2014. And now he is the victim of targeted enforcement by ICE officials.
Bad dude.
And ICE can wear. They're allowed to wear LAPD
yes.
uniforms.
So they are allowed to wear uniforms that say police on it. Right now, that's technically legal. Although Garcetti asked that they not do that, so not to increase the tensions between police and immigrants in the city.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a horrendously bad idea to wear police uniforms when you're not a police officer. It is, of course. I guess they are law enforcement officers, but again, you know, it's of course a crime for the rest of us to intimidate, to impersonate a police officer.
Right.
I've never intimidated a police officer.
Except on Halloween.
And so, but then you're wearing a costume, you're not really impersonating. Like these guys are going through the actions, they're pulling somebody over. Yeah, so obviously everyone is incredibly naive who pretends that this isn't a dramatic increase in what we've seen since November 9th and really, of course, since January 20th.
Let's get the violent criminal. I'm fine with violent criminal arrest and deportation, especially because that's what you said was going to happen. Like this is. Go after the bad dudes, not the guy who had a DUI and like didn't do his paperwork right on the purchase of his vehicle. Well, we got to get him now. We got to get him quick before he does something really terrible, like tear the tag off a mattress.
Yeah, or take his daughters to school on Wednesday also, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and then next week.
And the more you see individual instances like this, the more you realize what everybody's talking about on the side of let's do this practically and try to, if you're gonna go after people who are illegally, go after the people that make sense to target. Don't use this new program that Trump had unveiled during the joint session of Congress, his voice program, where it just seems so obvious to me that he's going to use this to disproportionately use the struggles of people who have actually experienced violence at the hands of undocumented immigrants, to use that to justify arresting grandparents outside hospitals. Or dads with their kids on the way to work. That's not what we're doing. That's not what you said you were going to do, but it seems like that's what you've already started doing.
Yeah, I mean, since he made his immigration amendments, basically he's saying that they can go after anybody who has any sort of criminal record. It doesn't matter if it's a violent offense like it was under the Obama administration. And as we covered before, it's these cases of these seemingly innocuous people who are just trying to live their life, take their freaking kids to school, and then they're getting arrested in this horrendous and heart-wrenching video that is just going to, I mean, I hope it angers people and I hope it gets people to get active. And so in that way, I think because it is so egregious. Hopefully it gets people mobilized.
But do you feel like this is a scare tactic of sorts? Like,
yeah.
At this point, with what they're doing, they're going to get anybody that they can to say we're cleaning up the streets of all the bad people, of all the rapists, the murderers, the robbers, and the killers, and this is their way of getting the dads dropping their kids off to school and the ones being the example. I don't know. It didn't say his age, but you know, a lot of these convictions. How much?
He's 48.
Yeah, so these convictions
spent
are
half his life in the U.S.
Exactly, and some of this stuff is when he was younger. I'm pretty sure when he got that car that he didn't know who was selling him the car. He just needed transportation. And as we've all had these situations happen where, you know, something may not have been right, but we didn't know. And a DUI, I haven't had a DUI, and I'm not gonna say everyone has, and that's okay. But he's done a lot of things in his past, and his record's been clean. And this is where, you know, it's that gray area. But then again, I asked the question, why hasn't he become a citizen since then? Why hasn't he become? And I'm just being devil's advocate, not saying that, oh, I agree with what happened, but this long, why do you think the process hasn't gone on for him to get the proper paperwork that he needs?
There's no clear pathway. There's also, along the way, if they've discovered you've made even a part of a misstep, and sometimes that's just failing to file the renewal of your DACA paperwork on time, if you miss it. Like yesterday we covered the story of a girl who is being deported because for various reasons you can, you know, smell out. But essentially, the one that they're citing is that she didn't file the money to renew her paperwork because she was still saving for it. So they dock it and they say, you know, you're dog-eared if you made one mistake along the way, not that you committed a violent crime, but if you just didn't get your paperwork in on time, it could be that small to stop you from getting it.
It's about what kind of tone we're setting, and that's why paying attention to how Trump talks is so important. It's not just, you know, we're not just pointlessly covering stories like, oh, there goes Trump again. I mean, that speech, which he got praised for by Gayle King and Van Jones and a bunch of other people on network television and the cable networks, and I like Van Jones a lot. I just think he lost it for a night. You don't praise this guy, and you don't praise him particularly as becoming president on a speech where he says, I'm going to set up a special office that's just going to be about pointing out crimes committed by outsiders against white people. I know he didn't say white people, but that's the message that
I heard.
Right, that's what that is the message that he's sending, and that's hideous and awful and terrible. And the result is that guys like this are going to get arrested. And look, he had a DUI and he's here illegally, so he's not going to win. The odds are he's not going to win. And he's got 4 kids, and he's going to get sent back to Mexico, and he's going to maybe risk it again to try and figure out some dangerous way to come across to be with his children, or them, all those kids who are U.S. citizens, have got to leave the country to go be with their dad.
Yeah.
And that is not a decision that we ought to be making. I'm sorry, I know I've been going. Can I say one thing? It's sort of a...
No, sorry, your time's up. The buzzer sounded.
Damn it. Look, I think I said this on Old School. I don't know where, but like ICE. If you're a law enforcement agency, you don't get to have a cool name. You're not a band, right? You have a serious job to do, and these are people's lives at stake, and you know this is part of it. Like ICE, man.
We did it.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement. How about this? Immigration and Customs Agency. That's the name. ICA, ICM, an ICA agent. That's the name. FBI. That's not. You don't get to be cool and wear cool jackets and then mess people's lives up because you feel emboldened and powerful and jacked up. So I hate it. I hate ICE. I hate their name. I always hated their name. You don't get to be cool, and being a cop is cool enough. You don't also get to have a badass name like you're in a band. Okay.
Good point.
I think, you know what? I think it is a good point.
I think it is a good point. I think it's awesome because you know they're like, the Iceman coming.
Right.
Now get on the floor, abuela.
Corporate media is awesome.
Wrong.
Independent media is the way to go.
Believe me.
Support independent media right now. Become a Young Turks member. TYTnetwork.com/join.